Good morning and welcome to today's daily reflection. The return of Christ is one of the more important beliefs in the Bible. The story of Jesus just isn't complete without it. First, Jesus came. We recently celebrated this at Christmas. Jesus died, rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. We know this from the Easter story. And Jesus will return. When? We have no idea. Like a lot of Christians, when we hear the phrase Matthew 24, we tend to think, oh no, here we go again. We're going to hear about wars, rumours of wars, earthquakes and famines. Today's reading is from Matthew 24. It's verses 1 to 14. It's a reading that definitely isn't the best way to start a week. But hey-ho, just like we have to take whatever weather we are given, our choice of readings is dictated, for better or worse, by the Common Worship Lectionary. So verse 1 starts, "As Jesus came out of the temple and was going away, his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. Then he said to them, 'You see all those, do you not? Truly I tell you, not one stone will be left, one upon another. All will be thrown down.' When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us when this will be, and what will be the sign of your coming at the end of the age?' Jesus answered them, 'Beware that no one leads you astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they will lead many astray. You will hear of wars and rumours of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places, and this is all but the beginning of the birth pangs. Then they will hand you over to be tortured and put to death. You will be hated by all the nations because of my name. Then many will fall away, and they will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will rise and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, the love of many will grow cold. But anyone who endures to the end will be saved. And this good news of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come.'" This is the word of the Lord. So as Jesus was walking away from Jerusalem, his disciples pointed out to the buildings of the temple. In the Gospel of Mark, the words are recorded as, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." While Luke tells the same story, he has the disciples remarking how the temple was adorned with beautiful stones, with gifts dedicated to God. Jesus responded with a dire statement about God's coming judgment on Israel, how the temple will be destroyed. He tells them how they will hear about violence and conflict. Now, they must have wondered where such talk of persecution and death had come from. After all, wasn't the Messiah's people supposed to be triumphant and victorious? Not killed, destroyed. History tells us that this prophecy concerning the temple was fulfilled in AD 70, when after a siege of the city by the Romans, they destroyed much of the city, including the temple. However, many of those things didn't rise to the levels depicted in those words of Jesus. There are two lines of thought here as to what the end times actually meant. One being that those things that Jesus describes in those passages, that the end of the age is yet to happen sometime in the future. This would lead to time when that would bring great suffering to the followers of Christ. They would be persecuted due to the world's rejection of him. Many will fall away, and rejection of morality and the law will happen. The influence of God's love the influence of God's love will fade away from the world, and those who survive those events, however, will see the gospel preached throughout the world as the end comes. Regarding the looming fate of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple in AD 70, there was one notable fact worth pondering, in that by that time most Christians had left Jerusalem long before it fell to the Roman legionaries. As things are today, we are not quite a civilization that has decided to work full throttle to eradicate famine and disease. We are still a planet where earthquakes and tsunamis happen, where volcanoes belch fire and destruction, to say nothing of conflicts in Ukraine, Israel, Sudan, Nigeria, and unrest and uncertainty in Iran and Venezuela. The second line of thought is that although Jesus mentioned in detail those things that would happen, there are people today who think that he was talking primarily about what would happen in Judea and Jerusalem at that particular time, not far in the future. The temple, Jerusalem, and the Jews of Jerusalem were the primary focus of Jesus' warning, not the entire world, in a way foretelling the events that started in AD 70. Accepting this view functions as an explanation as to the events that were yet to come in the life of Jesus himself and in what was going to happen on the way to the cross, that it should be read historically and not futuristically. So of the two alternative views of those words of Jesus, the first puts the events of Matthew 24 into a long distant future, while the second puts the events during the period of Jesus' contemporary generation. Indeed, the word generation is critical to this viewpoint, because later in Matthew, Jesus declares, "Truly, I say to you this generation will not pass away until all those things take place." And while we ponder our opinion on is it the first or the second viewpoint, I want to finish with a prayer. Everlasting God, as our hearts yearn and groan within us, waiting for the fullness of your kingdom, help us to pray, help us to wait, help us not to be misled by deception, but with undivided hearts to look for the true light of your coming. Amen. Now, whatever you do for the rest of the day, rest of this week, do it with a smile. Bye for now.